Chapter 10, The Pardons. After 8 years of Bill Clinton, everyone was ready for a change in January of 2001. But it was in his final hours in office that perhaps the most outrageous of all the Clinton scandals took place. The uproar began when the president's own half-brother was pardoned, not for his musical skills,
things you do come back to you,
but for a drug conviction. But Roger Clinton was anything but an upstanding citizen, as evidenced by this audio tape.
Junior high kicked Steve's ass while he was trying to help his brothers out.
Was he a junior right there?
Junior high or sophomore in high school, something. Whatever it was, Steve had the down. However old he was, it was Steve's fault. He had the down. He let him up.
We also learned that good old Roger had lobbied on behalf of some friends of his, even going so far as making a list. Good thing the president checked it twice, because none of the half-witted half-brothers' pals got a pardon. But Hillary's brothers, well, better luck. Just weeks skipping town for Chappaqua, the public learned that Hugh Rodham had been paid $400,000 for lobbying on behalf of two men who received clemency. The first was a snake oil salesman named Glenn Broswell. He was convicted in 1983 of trying to dupe people into buying an anti-balding concoction like a bad infomercial, and it landed him 3 years in a federal pen. But the worst part is that apparently nobody even did a routine background check on the guy, because at the time he was pardoned, he was also under investigation for a massive tax evasion and laundering scheme, and just several months before, he had taken the fifth almost 24 times during a civil trial in South Carolina. Well, at least he didn't have an illegal nanny. If he'd been trying to take out a loan, they would have looked at him under a magnifying glass, but instead, Broswell got his pardon, Hugh got a big check, and the president got a case of selective memory, saying that he knew nothing of his brother-in-law's involvement. The other upstanding citizen that Hugh was paid for representing was this fine gentleman named Carlos Vignali. But Carlos wasn't busted for selling snake oil. Try 800 pounds of cocaine. He had only served 6 years out of a 15-year sentence when Clinton's pardon cut him loose, despite the fact that prosecutors believed him to be the cocaine kingpin of the Twin Cities area. The federal judge who sentenced Vignali criticized the pardon, but Hugh Rodham, who clearly looks the part of super lobbyist, well, he got the job done, and the $150,000 that Vignali's father donated to Democratic lawmakers didn't hurt either. Again, the president claimed ignorance as his defense. Now, ignorance is right. He had just cut loose a drug kingpin, a scam artist, and the brother that nobody wants to sit next to at Thanksgiving dinner. Well, he was just getting started. But don't forget, Hillary Clinton has another brother. In March of 2000, President Clinton pardoned Edgar Allen Gregory Jr. and his wife, Vanna Jo, and they had been convicted in 1982 for bank fraud in Alabama. At the time of their pardon, they were owners of the United Shows of America Carnival Company, and guess who was on the payroll going back to 1997? That's right, Tony Rodham. He had been a paid consultant, sometimes traveling overseas on the company's behalf. All the while, the company had been doing business with the White House, setting up rides and games for visiting children. Edgar Gregory said he had asked Tony Rodham for help securing a pardon in 1999, and Mr. Rodham reportedly told him that the Justice Department handled such cases, but he would see what he could do. But it gets worse. In a case that was settled this past summer, the now bankrupt estate of United Shows of America sued Tony Rodham for more than $100,000 worth of loans that the company supposedly paid him. So Hillary's other brother was on the payroll of a man who asked for and got a pardon and later accused Tony of stealing from him.
You know, I did not have any involvement in the pardons that were granted or not granted.
And now we're ready for the grand finale. He's financier Mark Rich, whose ex-wife, Denise Rich, is a New York City socialite and Democratic fundraiser who has been photographed with Bill Clinton on several occasions. Rich had been accused of tax fraud and illegally violating trade sanctions with Iran when he fled to a country that would not extradite him, landing him on the FBI's most wanted list. In 1984, his companies pleaded guilty to 78 counts of tax fraud, paid a $150 million settlement, and more than $800,000 in fines. While lobbying for his pardon, Rich was represented by Washington attorney Jack Quinn, former chief of staff to Vice President Al Gore. Meanwhile, his ex-wife Denise donated generously to Hillary Clinton's 2000 Senate race and donated $450,000 to the Clinton Library. The pardon sparked so much outrage that Congress investigated, calling several Clinton administration officials to testify, including former White House Chief of Staff John Podesta and the president's personal lawyer Bruce Lindsay. Also subpoenaed to testify was the former Democratic National Committee Finance Chairwoman Beth Dozeritz. She had attended a party at the White House with Denise Rich on one of the last nights of the Clinton administration. But when she appeared in front of Congress, she did what all innocent people do.
Upon the advice of my counsel, I respectfully decline to answer that question based on the protection afforded me under the United States Constitution.
Earlier this year, she and her husband had a fundraiser at their home for Governor Bill Richardson. But did the Clintons use that as another excuse, as if they needed one, to distance themselves from the, quote, Fifth Amendment fundraiser? No, Hillary Clinton's campaign communication director, Howard Wolfson, told the Washington Post, quote, Beth is a good friend of the campaign, and she has made a major commitment to help Hillary. We appreciate her strong support. So it seems that after all these years, the era of the Clinton pardons may not be ancient history. Like 3 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, it seems that the shady characters involved in so many of these Clinton chapters are still connected to everyone and everything. And that's why this is another Clinton chapter that will never really be closed.